Okay, so now you can see I'm back and I'm in my grubbies because I'm going to tell you some of the things that you need for this class. Now everything is not required, but it's probably good to have most of this stuff. And you probably already have most of this stuff on hand. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the supplies you're going to need. Crayons. Okay, just simple, basic crayons. You don't have to get crazy. I would get Crayola. However, if you get those dollar store crayons like these, they're more waxy and the color doesn't come out very well. So I would suggest a higher brand like Crayola. And if you want to, get that big 72 box full of different colors because we like to have a wide spectrum of colors. Also, this is just an example of markers. You can get any kind of markers. You can get the Crayola markers. These here are just art markers that I have, distress markers. There's paint markers, Sharpies. You can use Sharpies as well. I'll show you some of the things that we did with Sharpies with this. And I would recommend Sharpies as well as regular markers as well that are washable. And then I also highly, highly recommend colored pencils as well. Get a big box of those with a variety of colors. So those are just your basics. Then if you want to get really creative, I suggest, this is my bag of my pastels. Now pastels are basically chalk, but a higher quality. So, and I'll show you some of the things that we did with pastels as well. So these are pastels and they came in a container, a tray, I don't know where that went, but they all fell out, so I just put them in a little baggie. You can also use chalk as well because these are one of my favorites to use. The reason why I like these is because they're easy to blend and they're easy to kind of, if you make a mistake, you can go over them really easy. There's also oil pastels, and oil pastels are basically crayons. They're a little bit more difficult to use and to blend, but they are used for blending as well. But basically they're like a crayon. They're oil based. That's why they're oil pastels. So you can get those as well, or just use crayons. The other thing that we might use is watercolors. Now watercolors come in a variety of different formats. You can get watercolor pencils, or you can get the watercolor tubes like this. And then all you're doing is just adding a little bit of water to it. And we'll discuss that whenever we use pastel or watercolors. Okay, so let's move on to paintbrushes. Now you can get a wide variety of paintbrushes for super cheap at Hobby Lobby. You can get quality ones or you can just get cheap ones. I just go with the cheap ones, especially when you're dealing with kids that sometimes leave the paint on and don't wash their paintbrushes, or they leave it dipped in the water. We don't want to do that. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But as you can see, I have a wide variety of different shapes and sizes of paintbrushes. You'll see that I have the medium-sized brushes and it's flat. And then I also have what looks like a paintbrush that you would use to paint your walls. But this is actually a paintbrush. If you know Bob Ross, he uses something like this. I also have some whiskey brushes, which you don't need. Basically, all you need is just regular paintbrushes. As you can see, Tavin's used some of these, and sometimes they get a little hard. And the way that I store these is always upright. Drop that. You can get some sponge paintbrushes as well. Those I would highly recommend that you get at least one sponge brush because we will be using those later. But you always want to store your brushes up because you don't want them down or you're going to ruin the brush. Okay, moving on, the paints that you need. Now, again, I get a lot of my stuff at Hobby Lobby because I use my 40% off coupon and I go at different times, so I'm not spending a lot of money. These are pretty cheap. I got these for $1.29 and they're just tempera paint, and these are your basic colors. Okay, so I want to make sure that you have at least these basic colors, your red, yellow, and blue, along with white and black. I also have over here a wide variety of different colors that I use and acrylics. So you can see that, and of course Tavin loves the glitter paints, so you can get creative with that as well. I also have some painting tools that I use. That is up to you. So then you can also get the tubes of acrylic paint if you want to. You can see I haven't even cracked this open yet, so I will be using these as well. We also want to make sure that your child has scissors. Now, these are my scissors. You want to make sure that your child has child-safe scissors and that they're not running around like this with their scissors. Also, you want to make sure that they have a pencil, or you can get charcoal sketching pencils, okay? Because those will be really fun for sketching. Now, another thing that I use, we're in our basement, by the way, if you hear noises in the background, that's our washing machine. This is where we're going to be doing some of our art projects. So you can see that we have this all set up here. Okay, so again, I got these trays, 5 for $5 at Hobby Lobby. And they're really cool because you can just put the paints in here and use these little parts here to mix your paints. Really fun. And you get 5 of them and reusable. Now, if you want to be, you know, resourceful and recycle, just use egg cartons. You can use the, what do you call this? It's not cardboard. Egg cartons! Or you can use the styrofoam ones. And you can mix paints in there as well and just keep reusing if that's what you want to do. The other thing that you're going to need, besides glasses, if you need those, is you want to make sure that you have a good sketchbook. Now, this here is Tavin's sketchbook. You can see that he does some sketching in here. But the paper's kind of thin. So we have kind of thin paper, and this is not going to be good for paints if you're going to use paints. It might be good for your pastels, but it's not going to be good for Sharpie markers. So what I recommend, again, from Hobby Lobby, is a sketchbook that's a good size, and also the paper is thicker. We can see that the paper's thick, and now look at here, you can see that it didn't go through. So it didn't, when Tavin painted this, it did not go through to the other page. So right here, look at how much paint he used there. It did not go through to the other side. This is some of the alphabet that he created that we'll be discussing later. So you can see here again, he used all black and it did not go through. So this is how I would recommend. It's a mixed media sketchbook, and I would get a pretty good size. This is fun if you're gonna sketch, if you want to go outside and sketch something just for an idea, but this is really where the projects should belong in a book like this. So those are some of the supplies that you need, along with paper towel. Gotta make sure you have lots and lots of paper towel. Now, as you can see, this desk here, this table here, this was left here when we moved in, so you can see that it has a lot of paint on it. Some of the kids before drew on it. You wanna, if you have a table like this that's just good for, you know, art, and you're not worried about getting paint or anything on it, don't worry about it. Otherwise, I would get some butcher paper, or you can just use paper bags from the grocery store and line it on your table so they can do their art supplies that way, or their art projects that way. I think that's about it. You might want Play-Doh just in case we need to be doing something with Play-Doh. But again, I'm always going to let you know ahead of time of what the project is going to entail. Okay, so that's what you need for your art supplies.